The dust has settled, fellas. We are post-draft. We're done talking about landing spots and potential draft capital and looking at mock draft hypotheticals. We got the real thing now. We are talking about a 4-round Superflex rookie draft that we are going to be doing with our Discord members today, and we are going to dissect everything that happens. It's going to be chaos. It's going to be super fun, but it'll give you guys a great idea of what the market, what the public is thinking about some of these players, where they're going to go in your rookie drafts. I have some kicking off today and tomorrow. I'm sure you guys do as well. So this is good practice for myself and for Danny as well. So without further ado, Danny, how you doing? Let's get right into this thing.
Doing well. And yeah, after a chaotic 3-day stretch of the NFL draft, a lot of things we loved, a lot of things we hated about it. But ultimately here, you're going to be adding some high prize rookies into your dynasty teams within the next week or so. So yeah, we're fired up. We're ready to go through exactly what a 4-round mock draft would look like post NFL draft. It's going to be a lot of fun. You guys are going to be adding these guys. So without further ado, let's get right into it.
All right, so we got the order randomized, and as always, Danny picks 101 because he's got a damn horseshoe up his ass. But Danny, you're on the board with the 101. Let's start this draft and get this going. We're going to try and talk while people are making picks here. If we have to, we'll at the end of the draft, we'll do like a recap, talk about some tier breaks that we noticed. I'm sure you're going to go in one direction and one direction only here.
Yeah, I mean, the direction you have to go with if you're picking at 101. Now, if you're not contending, maybe you consider trading the pick, elite quarterback, whatever. But if you're making the pick at 101, there is no player in this draft you should be taking over Bijan Robinson, the newest Atlanta Falcon, 8th overall draft capital. Obviously, one of the cleanest prospect profiles we have seen at the running back position to come out really since Saquon Barkley. Like, this is a generational running back prospect. He got picked high in the NFL draft. He lands in one of the best situations he could have possibly asked for. Arthur Smith's scheme, team that likes to run the football. Don't overthink it. Take Bijan Robinson if you are sticking and picking at your 101.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about an offense that had a 33-year-old converted wide receiver and a 5th-round running back be top 5 running backs in rushing DVOA in the NFL last year. It's a great scheme, great offensive line, like you said. Bijan Robinson, transcendent talent being added to that situation. Yeah, it's Desmond Ridder, it's Taylor Heineke, but we're thinking, in the short term, he can still be an elite redraft running back. And if they upgrade that quarterback situation the next couple of years, then it's possible then he can be an elite long-term running back as well. So Judoyo is on the clock. Again, this is a super flex draft. We will do a 1 quarterback draft tomorrow for those of you guys that are in 1 quarterback leagues. I know we ignore 1 quarterback for the most part, but we will definitely have you guys covered tomorrow. So Judoyo probably with the old man Justin Herbert profile pick here. I think this is what we've got here. I'm assuming he's going to go with Bryce Young, but we'll see what happens. Maybe he goes Anthony Richardson. Maybe he goes off the board entirely here.
This better not be an auto pick. That's all I'm going to say.
I said whoever autos gets fired. So, yes, okay. There we go. Auto pick immediately. But let's just pretend that he sat there and selected Bryce Young. Bryce Young, to me, is the clear 102. I think he should be the 102 across the board. As much as I love the tantalizing upside of Anthony Richardson, Bryce Young, to me, is too clean of a projection. Goes to an offense that actually added some pieces. Miles Sanders, Hayden Hurst. Of course, they drafted Jonathan Mingo in the 2nd round at 39th overall. So I definitely think that Bryce Young is honestly in a fairly decent position for, past 1st overall pick quarterbacks. They drafted a tackle last year, left tackle Ikem Ekwonu in the 1st round in the top 10 of the NFL draft. Top 10 offensive line and pass blocking. Bryce Young, to me, clear 102. We'll see what Flash does here at the 103.
Yeah, I mean, you basically covered it up when it comes to Bryce Young. I mean, he was the 1st overall pick in the draft. He was this very, very strong prospect. And quite literally, if this guy was 6'2", nobody would have any concerns with him. But the fact that the NFL told us that they already don't have concerns with him despite the limited size, therefore, you should not have concerns with him when it comes to fantasy football. You mentioned it. 1st overall pick, lands in a good situation. Frank Reich at the helm over there in Carolina. Don't overthink it. I will say, though, 103, Anthony Richardson, the nuts range of outcomes when it comes to that draft prospect. Obviously, we knew that high-end overall ceiling that he represents, that Konami code type of figure, big, strong arm, the most athletic quarterback we have ever seen in combine history. Just so happens to land with Shaken Steichen over there in Indianapolis. Great nesting spot. Number 1 wide receiver on the outside. Very innovative play caller. I mean, this is exactly what you could have hoped for. And I mentioned that, we both mentioned that Bryce Young is both of our 102s. But if somebody were to take Anthony Richardson over Bryce Young, I wouldn't bat an eye on that, because I do think that the overall ceiling range of outcome when it comes to Anthony Richardson is up there with any single quarterback in Dynasty.
Yeah, we differ on that point. I personally don't think you should. This is the tier 1, right? We just see CJ Stroud go 104. Not a great landing spot with Houston, right? They don't have the greatest weapons. They drafted Tank Dell in the 3rd round as like their best receiver addition to that team. They have John Mechie, Robert Woods, Dalton Schultz, Dameon Pierce, a good back, but not the greatest of situations for CJ Stroud. But I do think he was a good enough prospect to warrant still going here at least at 104. I go back and forth on who 103 is, who 104 is for me. I lean on the ability that I saw from CJ Stroud in college, but again, I would not be outrageous. I don't think it's outrageous to take Anthony Richardson at 103, and I might even do it in a couple of leagues just to diversify there because I don't have a firm stance. So this is the tier 1, right? These guys are all Bijan's a back in the 1st round startup pick. Bryce Young, early 2nd round startup pick. Richardson, Stroud, mid to late 2nd round startup picks. Jahmyr Gibbs and Jackson Smith-Njigba come off the board next. Those two also would be my 105 and 106 respectively in that order. But at 105, if you had a decision point where you have 3 great running backs and 2 great wide receivers, I would go Jackson Smith-Njigba. But at 105, 106, it all depends on team construction, on what your goals are. If you're a rebuilding team, probably go with the receiver. If you're a contending team, maybe go with the running back. It's a pretty good situation. Both of those guys I expect to be 3rd round startup picks, going 12th overall for Gibbs, which is not something we expected. He should take over the Swift role and then some. And then Jackson Smith-Njigba in the short term might get hurt a little bit by Tyler Lockett being there, play on the outside, learn the ropes there, and eventually potentially move into the slot as a 2nd-year player if Lockett's no longer there.
Yeah, 100%. So overall, on CJ Stroud, you kind of mentioned him. He is my quarterback 3 in this class, 104. So Andy gets the value there. In terms of JSN versus Gibbs, like you kind of said, like this is an interchangeable 5 and 6. Both guys, like you said, are going to go in that mid to late 3rd area of a lot of your startups. If you want the stud wide receiver that's going to command targets for the long term, obviously Jackson Smith-Njigba. But in terms of Jahmyr Gibbs, he is one of the biggest winners of this entire draft. 12th overall draft capital, on an offense that showed that they can put up points in bunches last year. And overall, we saw what DeAndre Swift was able to do in this exact offense when he was trusted with the workload. We saw that the coaching dynamic between DeAndre Swift and, Ben Johnson, Dan Campbell, Deuce Staley, even last year, was never going to be a strong relationship. The relationship I saw when they took Jahmyr Gibbs at 12th overall and the reactions that I saw from that boardroom just kind of goes to show that everything they envisioned DeAndre Swift ending up becoming in that offense, they planned for Jahmyr Gibbs. So if that's the case, I mean, this was a legitimate RB1 in DeAndre Swift when he was getting the workload. I think Jahmyr Gibbs can do that and then some in this team.
Yeah, and I think we see 107 and 108. I agree with these picks. Addison and QJ would be exactly in that order who I would pick, but I wouldn't blame anybody for taking QJ above Addison at 107. So for me, that's kind of like another mini tier. The first mini tier after that, after those first 4 guys would be Gibbs, JSN. Second mini tier, Jordan Addison and Quentin Johnston. Although I will say personally, I value Jordan Addison closer to JSN at 106 than I do to Quentin Johnston at 108, but it's all kind of personal preference. We got great landing spots out of Addison and Johnston. So I think some people will make the ballsy claims that, Addison's wide receiver 1 now, or Quentin Johnston's wide receiver 1 now. I'm personally going to lean on my pre-draft evaluations because they all went into pretty good landing spots in my opinion. So I'll keep it JSN, Addison, QJ in that order. Will Levis, we see come off the board at 109, 2nd round quarterback. This is where he was ranked pre-draft for me, 109 behind Zach Charbonnet, who obviously went down in value after the draft. I think I'm a little lower on Levis as of now. Let me know your thoughts on Levis and then Charbonnet, who just went with the next pick, and then I'll make mine.
Yeah, I quickly want to address the dynamic between any other wide receivers versus JSN. I just think that the market, or the stranglehold that JSN holds on the Dynasty macro market, makes him ahead of those guys for me. Because again, if you wanted to argue with the landing spot, similar draft capital, or maybe you had either ahead of or JSN pre-draft, I just think with how the market values JSN, he would be the clear wide receiver 1. You mentioned here Will Levis going 33rd overall to the Titans. About where this range, 109 to 112 area, I have no qualms with that. Charbonnet, obviously bad landing spot, very good draft capital, very good prospect. I'll let you make your pick here, though, at 111.
Yeah, so for me, my 109 is still on the board in Zay Flowers. And I understand a lot of people probably don't love the landing spot to Baltimore, and, rightfully so. But At the same time, we have a talented wide receiver prospect who is my wide receiver 3 pre-draft right there with Quentin Johnston in kind of like a mini tier behind JSN and Addison. Zay Flowers goes to a landing spot now with a quarterback who's locked up long-term. Lamar Jackson is still a top 15 passing quarterback in the NFL, even if he's more of like a rushing threat than a passing threat. Odell Beckham Jr., Rashad Bateman, those guys might not be long for that situation. Bateman's rookie contract is up pretty soon. They're probably not going to pick up his 5th-year option unless he can stay healthy and produce this year. And then Odell Beckham Jr.'s 30 years old, had 2 ACL tears. I think Zay Flowers is one of the more underrated landing spots, I think, because people are very, hesitant on Zay Flowers given the Baltimore Ravens track record. But we know Todd Monken coming in, probably going to be more pass heavy. The fact that they signed Odell Beckham Jr., they extended Lamar Jackson, they drafted Zay Flowers, all indications that they will pass the ball more, similar to what we saw from this exact team not 2 years ago when Marquise Brown put up a top 21 wide receiver season in points per game. Now, I'll let you talk about the 112 and make your pick because I think that's high, but I'll let you get into it.
Yeah, I quickly want to say on Zay Flowers too. It's a pretty similar situation. Good young quarterback, new innovative offensive coach, adding a stud wide receiver that we saw for the Philadelphia Eagles this past year. So I do think Baltimore could be one of the better fantasy offenses on the entire landscape. I'll touch up on Mingo in a second. I'll go and make my pick. And he was my running back 4 pre-draft. I'm getting him as the running back 4 off the board, despite him getting the nuts range of outcome I could have possibly imagined. Devon Achane lands with the Miami Dolphins. Proper scheme. You got Mike McDaniel running that over there in Miami, the breakout offense of the 2022 season. You get Devon Achane in there. You get him in that Raheem Mostert light type of role. And we saw Raheem Mostert be an RB2 down the stretch last year. So if you're giving Devon Achane that role plus more receiving production, which his profile would indicate, we could be looking at a legitimate top 15 level outlook if he hits his ceiling.
Yeah, I think Achane's landing spot was absolutely great. People might have a problem with Kincaid falling this low because he was a first-round tight end to the Buffalo Bills. I would say realistically, I have Zay Flowers 109. After Zay Flowers at 109, Levis, Charbonnet, Achane, other running backs, maybe Kendre or Roschon, Jonathan Mingo, and the 2 tight ends, or maybe the 3 tight ends if you want to include Laporta in that area and Josh Downs as well. It depends on your team needs, man. If you need a tight end at the 112, take Michael Mayer or Dalton Kincaid. If you don't need a tight end, go with Devon Achane. Like, it's really, there's no consensus here for me after the top 9 picks. After the 4 first-round wide receivers, the 2 first-round running backs, and the 3 first-round quarterbacks, there's really no consensus. If you need a quarterback, go Levis. If you need a tight end, go with one of them. Like, there's no real consensus for me. So I kind of like that a little bit about rookie drafts this year because you might get some good values if the teams in front of you don't need a tight end. For example, if you're picking 204 and you'd love for Mayer to slide there, if no one in front of you needs a tight end, he probably will. So that's the good thing about rookie drafts this year. We do see, I want to address Mingo real quick because I don't think he was a good enough prospect to go 39th overall, but he did still go 39th overall. So I imagine most of the market will value him between the 112 to 205.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you there. Obviously, spotty production profile, 4 years over there at Ole Miss, never truly had a breakout year. I mean, I think this year, he had 800 receiving yards as his quote unquote breakout. But like you kind of said, does get that draft capital, is an athletic being. And if we're looking at exactly where he could have landed from a target perspective, Adam Thielen, DJ Chark, Terrace Marshall are the main competitions for targets over there. You got Jonathan Mingo paired up now with Bryce Young. If you're going to make the bet on him, like, I don't mind betting on a guy like Mingo, given where he went in the draft and given the draft capital, like we kind of mentioned, but I personally would be willing to do it in the mid to late second area. 112, I just can't take him over Achane. I can't take him over the tight ends. I can't even take him over Josh Downs, who I had way above him pre-draft.
Yeah, exactly. Again, another part of this rookie draft dynamic that we're going to probably have to get through our heads is some people are going to value players way higher than other people when it comes to the 111 to 202. Like, honestly, the pick I'm picking right now, 211, this guy, I think you could make the argument for at 112 or 201. And I'm actually going to go with Roschon Johnson. I was hoping that Sam Laporta would have fallen to me, actually. I thought he might have. But I'm going to go with Roschon Johnson, who I had as my RB5 pre-draft. I have him right now as my 16th overall player. So this is a guy that I would draft as like the 204 currently, and he's here on the board for me at 211. If you guys have a lot of late seconds and early thirds, typically those are not great picks to have, but depending on your draft room, you might get guys that you value in the early to mid second just simply because there's no consensus. I wouldn't be shocked if in some leagues Josh Downs falls to the 3rd round. I wouldn't be shocked if, Kendre Miller and Luke Musgrave, Sam Laporta, some of these tight ends that got good draft capital fall into the mid, third round type of area. It's going to be really interesting in a lot of your rookie drafts, I would say. And I would just say just take your guys, man. Like, do it within reason, but there's no real consensus. So there's no real reason for you to follow ADP.
Yep, no, I agree. Roschon Johnson would have been my pick as well. 16th overall ranked player. Doesn't go on day 2, but lands in the perfect spot for a non-day 2 back. Similar situation, in my opinion, to a guy like Tyler Algier last year, landing in Atlanta, where you're getting this opportunity to get touches right away. Algier had 1,000 rushing yards as a rookie. I think that Roschon Johnson could potentially push that this year, but I'm on the clock here. I'm going to go with my next player, and that's going to be Tajay Spears with the Tennessee Titans. Obviously gets that day 2 draft capital going to Tennessee. Derrick Henry, we've been talking about his quote unquote decline for the last 3 years, but although I don't think it's going to come imminent, this is still a 29-year-old running back, 250-pound running back that has over 2,000 career touches. Realistically, there could be a scenario where this is the pass-catching running back in the Titans backfield this year. And then once Derrick Henry kind of, runs his point, already trade speculation this past offseason, I wouldn't be shocked if he was moved maybe in season, maybe going into next season if a team needs a running back, a contending team. I think the Titans are kind of realizing that they need to kind of shift gears. They need to kind of retool from a youth standpoint. You have Will Levis added to this team. You have Treylon Burks added to this team. I think Tajay Spears has an opportunity to be the running back for this team long term.
Yeah, I agree. And I think a good exercise to do at the end of this draft is maybe spot the best picks, spot the worst picks kind of thing, because there's a couple that stand out to me right now. Michael Mayer is my 10th ranked player. I would take him 110 in a draft, assuming I needed a tight end, especially in any kind of tight end premium league. So I think getting him at 2-3 was an awesome value there. Same goes for Chase Brown, who I have ranked at the end of the second round. He goes there at the 3-4. Jaden Reed, I had ranked at 19th overall, so mid-second round, 50th overall draft capital to the Green Bay Packers. I think that was a great pick by Judoyo at 3-2, so kind of redeeming himself for auto picking. Same goes Man United fan taking Cedric Tillman, third round capital to the Browns. I talked about it on our live stream, but Tillman, probably not great rookie season outlook because Cooper's there, Donovan Peoples-Jones is there, Elijah Moore's there, but Cooper's getting older. DPJ's a free agent after this year. Tillman, if he's able to, when he gets on the field, have good target numbers, targets per route run type of numbers, I think he could be a breakout candidate heading into his second season. So I actually don't mind that landing spot. And I think I'm going to end up with a lot of him because I think he's going to fall in drafts to the third round, to the mid third round, late third round type of area. So I'm almost on the clock here. I'm looking at some of my best available players. Marvin Mims went off the board already. We still have Jalen Hyatt off the board already. I'm looking at my best available guys, and I'm not loving the board at the moment because most of my guys are flying off the board. It's tough, man. This area of the draft is going to be, again, very much get your guy type of season. So I'm just going to take a guy when I'm not sure. This is going to be my default. I'm going to take a guy who I think is a good player. And I know Danny is going to like this one because he's a Dallas Cowboy. Yep. Deuce Vaughn is small. We all know this. Deuce Vaughn is very small. He's 5'5", 180 pounds. But Deuce Vaughn's a good player, and he got good draft capital relative to what I thought he was going to get, to be honest, to a team that is probably going to have a need for his skill set if they use, Tony Pollard on early downs or whatever, or, Tony Pollard's on the franchise tag. He could be gone after this season. If you drop a prime Tariq Cohen in the Cowboys offense, that's exactly what Deuce Vaughn can represent. Probably give you flex appeal in a good situation. He's never going to be an RB1, probably not even an RB2 in fantasy, but as a depth piece to a contending roster, if you're picking here at the end of the third round, early fourth round or whatever, I think he's a good option there because I firmly believe he's just a good player. And I don't really want to bet against players who I think are good.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, if we were looking at Deuce Vaughn and he was 6 foot, 200 pounds with the tape that he had, he would be the third running back off the board. There's no way around it. He would be a high second round pick if he had the frame of some of the guys that were going above. You look at his profile from a production standpoint, elite. You look at his level of competition, did it against Alabama, did it against big time SEC schools, did it against a prime Big 12 competition as well. This guy has played all of the top competition in college football and flourished. Obviously the draft capital, 6th round, not ideal. And obviously the size is going to limit his overall ceiling, but and then the end of the third round, if you can get a player that contributes any type of production to your lineup, sign me up.
Yeah, an underrated part of Deuce Vaughn, too, is he carried the biggest workload of any running back in this class, despite his size, and never dealt with injuries, too. So he's very durable despite that. He's like running after a chicken with his, in the chicken coop. If you guys have ever, tried to run after a chicken, that's literally what tackling Deuce Vaughn is like. So Where are you going here? It's not a great
Yeah.
board here. There's one player that I think stands out above all, who I had actually ranked in the second round.
Yep. And you're going to be saying Tucker Kraft, correct?
Yep, Tucker Kraft.
Yep.
I actually didn't even see him on the board. I probably would have picked him over Deuce Vaughn. Kraft, in a bit of a rough situation, he got third round draft capital, which I think was about expected for him, but he was the second tight end drafted by the team that drafted him. Luke Musgrave was the first guy. He went off the board in the early 40s to the Green Bay Packers. Tucker Kraft, who I think is a much better prospect than Luke Musgrave, especially receiving skill set, receiving profile wise. I think he might end up being the better tight end. A couple years ago, we saw Mark Andrews and Hayden Hurst both get drafted to the Baltimore Ravens. If you said, screw Mark Andrews, they drafted Hayden Hurst first, then you would have missed out on Mark Andrews. And I think, I'm not going to say that Tucker Kraft's going to turn into Mark Andrews, but I think this is definitely the type of situation where lean on your pre-draft evaluation. They got day 2 draft capital each. It's an open competition. And Tucker Kraft, my comp for him was Pat Freiermuth. And if you dropped Pat Freiermuth in the Green Bay Packers offense, I think we would all be pretty excited.
Yep, for sure. The other player I was considering, a little bit of homerism there, but I mean, Luke Schoonmaker going day 2 to the Dallas Cowboys. Obviously, a very, very athletic player. I believe he's the 16th most athletic tight end of all time, according to MathBomb. The production profile, the age is obviously the warts in his profile, but in terms of where exactly he could have gone, second round to a team that just lost Dalton Schultz, a player that's had 89 plus targets in the last 3 years. That could have been a very good pick here. If you can get any type of potential starting tight end in the 4th round of your rookie drafts, I think that's going to be a potential value. Because, I mean, we saw guys like last year, for example, Greg Dulcich has appreciated a ton in value. Trey McBride, despite not a very productive rookie season, appreciated in value. Chig Okonkwo, another big winner of the season, appreciated in value. If you're hitting in these guys in the 4th round of your rookie drafts, there's an opportunity maybe you can sell them for an early 3 next year, maybe a late 2 if they have a really, really good season. And in Greg Dulcich's case, this is a guy who's probably worth a mid-second at this point.
Yeah, in tight ends, I find when we're in the 3rd, 4th round of rookie drafts, I think the best 2 positions to invest in are running backs and tight ends. Because running backs, anything can happen, right? You get some of the guys that went in this round, Zach Evans, 6th round draft capital, not great, right? We don't love that, but they don't seem to be very committed to Cam Akers. It's possible Zach Evans impresses in camp. And worst case scenario, you can flip him for what you paid for him or more come training camp. And if he's blowing it up, or maybe even more than that, if you hold on to the production. So running backs, always a good investment in the 3rd round. When in doubt, I will take running backs over middling, low-end wide receiver prospects like Michael Wilson, Tank Dell, Xavier Hutchinson, guys like this. And tight ends also, just because they're tight ends, sometimes good prospects get undervalued, like you mentioned with Dulcich. He was available in the 3rd round of a lot of rookie drafts last year, and I got him a lot. So, and he's a guy, like you said, could be worth a mid-second at this point in time. Quarterbacks, generally not the greatest investment. Stetson Bennett actually went off the board. Jake Haener will be in consideration for me at this pick because he is a quarterback that I really liked. And he went 4th round to the New Orleans Saints, which I think actually was one of the better spots he could have gone, because Derek Carr, I mean, he's not the greatest quarterback in the world. He's not a world beater, but he is making a lot of money. And Jake Haener getting 4th round draft capital as opposed to like going undrafted, like was in the range of outcomes for him, is definitely good news. So I'm almost on the board here. I was targeting Sean Tucker, Tampa Bay Buccaneers undrafted free agent, mainly due to medical concerns, probably not a talent issue. But he had a heart condition apparently that popped up on the combine medicals, which is obviously not great. But if he was cleared medically, he mentioned that why he was able to have a combine is because he was cleared medically. Then that's definitely great news for his health. And hopefully he can make an impact on the Buccaneers roster, because I think he profiles as a great early down complement to Rachaad White. So he's definitely interesting. Another Tampa Bay Buccaneers player, Trey Palmer, was drafted, I believe, in the 6th or the 7th round, who I thought was like a borderline day 2 caliber wide receiver prospect, 4.3 speed, good size, productive this year at Nebraska. Dwayne McBride, also a guy that I really like, and I think I'm going to go with here. I think a lot of people are going to be excited about, Israel Abanikanda, who went the 3.8. Give me 4.11 Dwayne McBride over Izzy Abanikanda at the 3.8 any day of the week, man. We got an offense where, it's a great offense, as are the Jets, but give me the offense that I have an opening for a running back, right? Israel Abanikanda is not only behind Breece Hall, but he's probably also behind Michael Carter and maybe even Zonovan Knight as well. So I love this landing spot for Dwayne McBride, because all it takes is a Dalvin Cook trade, and we have McBride and Madison splitting touches potentially. So I like McBride. I thought he was a great, like, pure running prospect, one of the better ones in the class. I think he's better than Abanikanda straight up. So I'll take him at the 4.11 there. But I also do think priority free agents wise, Palmer, Jake Haener, those type of guys would be on my short list for sure.
Yep. No, I agree. And I wish we could see, like, can we see potentially who would be available left? Honorable mention guys that didn't go in this range. I'm sure we'll touch upon it on the live stream, so you guys will have more
We
information
might
on
make
that.
a short video on priority free agents that are going undrafted. Once we get some
Yep.
ADP data, maybe on like Wednesday or something like that, we can
Yep.
throw out a short video, 5-10 minute video about who to pick up as priority free agents. Guys like I would have said last year, guys like Zonovan Knight would have been a good priority free agent
Yep.
pickup, and you would have gotten some startable weeks out of the
Um,
guy, RB2 level production.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, even a couple years ago, one of the bigger hits was Elijah Mitchell. Like, he was at best going to be a fourth round rookie pick in a lot of your leagues because he was, this day 3 running back. They already took Trey Sermon. People really hyped him down. And I mean, look at him now. You could probably sell him for what, a late second round pick from where he was valuated 2 years ago.
Yeah, Brock Purdy would have been probably a priority pickup
Yep.
last year too, and he's probably a top 30, 25 quarterback in Dynasty right now. So if you want to hit the little arrows there, so we can see the full draft board uninterrupted here. So again, the tier breaks, for those of you guys wondering, if you guys have a rookie draft starting today, starting tomorrow, whatever the case is, the tier break is clear for me. It's Bijan and the 3 quarterbacks. Whatever order you want to take them at, for me, that would be Bryce Young, CJ Stroud / Anthony Richardson. For Danny, that would be Bryce Young, Anthony Richardson, CJ Stroud. And then the second kind of tier is the 4, skill position guys, but maybe a mini tiers breaking up the first 2 from the latter 2. I don't know if you agree with that. Do you think these guys you can make the argument that you should take Quentin Johnston 105, or do you think there's a separation there?
I think there's a separation given startup ADP. I mean, you're looking at what I would expect is Gibbs and JSN for the most part, given the community, are going to be, like we mentioned, mid to late third round startup picks. Addison and QJ more so in the round 4 or 5 area. So although, we really like these guys and we'd be happy to pick these picks in our rookie drafts, there's still a pretty big difference. I mean, we're looking at probably a separation of at least a second, I would say, in terms of what the general consensus feels. Although
Yeah,
I
I would
think
say so.
Addison is close. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I would say so. And I actually think in some leagues that Gibbs and JSN might go over one of the quarterbacks, if not 2 of the quarterbacks. I think some people will go crazy and take Gibbs 103, 104 type of area. And I don't totally blame them, but I personally would stick with the quarterback equity long-term wise. Like I said, from 109 here, for me, 109 is Zay Flowers. So if Zay Flowers is sitting there, he would be like the final tier break. I think he's in the same tier as Jordan Addison and Quentin Johnston. But from Will Levis, Zach Charbonnet, Jonathan Mingo, Devon Achane, Dalton Kincaid, Michael Mayer, Josh Downs, that's probably where it ends. That's probably another tier. Like, you could make the argument for Josh Downs at 111. You could make the argument for Dalton Kincaid at 111. I have Michael Mayer ranked 110. Like, I think you could really put that in any order depending on your team's needs. If you need a quarterback, Levis is available. If you need a tight end, Kincaid, Mayer makes sense. If you need a receiver, Downs makes sense. Mingo makes sense. If you need a running back, Achane, Kendre, those guys kind of make sense. And then after that, all hell breaks loose. There is no tiers after this. Like, one of the few rookie drafts I can seriously say that after maybe that tail end of the first round tier, early second round tier, if somebody wanted to take Rashee Rice, like happened in this video, 2-6, which I would not do. I think he's a 3rd round rookie pick. If you want to take him 2-6, I'm not going to totally blame you. If you wanted to take Luke Musgrave again at 2-8, which I would not do, or Hendon Hooker at 2-7, which I would not do, I don't blame you. If you wanted to take Zach Evans at 2-7, again, I probably wouldn't do it, but I wouldn't blame you. I think guys like Chase Brown, Jaden Reed, Cedric Tillman went a little bit too low in this draft, as well as Roshan Johnson and Sam Laporta. I think those guys definitely should have went higher. Let me know, who do you think, other than the guys I mentioned, should have went higher or lower as well?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you pretty much covered a lot of the guys. I really like the value here on Tyjae Spears. He's a guy. Let me just quickly check where I have him ranked. He's my 19th overall current player right now. I just think the day 2 capital, what he kind of represented pre-draft, top 10 running back for us, landing in a team that could potentially have turnover at the running back position in the short term. I think that was a great spot for him. Obviously, the medicals, there was the ACL reports. Apparently, he doesn't have an ACL in his knee. I don't think he would have gone on day 2 if he didn't have an ACL in his knee. Like, that just seems ridiculous to me, to be honest.
Yeah, for sure. And I think Kraft was a great value for there in the draft as well. As far as these 4th round guys, again, don't go crazy with Sean Tucker. I think that he could be this year's Justin Ross, where everybody was like making Justin Ross in the early 3rd round of rookie drafts last year. He's an undrafted free agent. That is the number one thing you got to remember about Sean Tucker. So he belongs in the 4th round of rookie drafts. I don't care if you think he can be the starting back for Tampa Bay. He belongs in the 4th round of rookie drafts because he is an undrafted free agent and might not make the team. And also, we heard reports that he might never play football again, given his heart condition. So, and that's pretty much what happened with Justin Ross. Not a heart condition, but medicals caught up with Justin Ross, and that's why we didn't see him last year. I still believe in both of those guys from a talent perspective, but the medicals are seriously concerning. So do not take Sean Tucker 3-1 in your rookie draft or something like that, because I know people will, and I think it's a mistake.
I agree with you there. The other one I quickly want to say, nice value on both the tight ends, like we kind of mentioned. I do think, like, this 110 to 203 type of range is the sweet spot for the tight end. So getting them on the later portion of that, absolutely fantastic there. I also quickly want to say that Will Levis at the 1-9, I understand it. Obviously, people point to he didn't go on day one. He lands in Tennessee, not a lot of weapons, but you're getting a potential starting quarterback. He's currently my 10th ranked overall player. And given the draft class, like you kind of said, after Zay Flowers would personally be my 109. He's the last one I feel really sure about. 110 on for me, realistically, like you said, take who you want, because there is no consensus right now. You want to take Charbonnet at the 110. Go ahead. You want to take Devon Achane at the 110? Go ahead. You're really high on Kendre Miller. You want to take him at the 110? Go ahead. Obviously, you can explore pockets, gauge where your league is at, and potentially get some value moving down from 110 to 205 and still getting your guy. But if you're unsure about where the league is at, I don't really think there's a set in stone consensus like there is, for example, JSN being the clear cut wide receiver one in terms of rookies. And of course, Jahmyr Gibbs going in the top 6, given the draft capital he saw.
Yeah, agreed. And I also think that if you guys, let's say you have the 111 in your draft and you have the 206, the 208, and the 212, trade. If you're a contender and you want a production piece at 111, instead of taking a receiver, go trade for a veteran. Go trade the 111 for, I don't know, maybe somebody's lower on Brandon Ayuk in your league. Maybe you can go get Jerry Jeudy with that. Maybe you can't get quite those level of players, but you can get a productive piece like Amari Cooper or Mike
Marquise
Evans
Brown.
or somebody like that. Marquise Brown. I think this of all years is one of the years that I'm more willing to trade late first and early seconds for veterans. And of course, as always is the case in rookie drafts, if people are willing to give you a random 2024 first for your 111 on the clock, you always take that, because even if that first ends up being 112 in next year's class, it's going to end up appreciating in value and have more liquidity than the players now, because people know that 112 in this year's class is not that good anymore. And there's, of course, the upside chance that pick is 106 next year, 105 next year, potentially 101 next year. So definitely, if you guys enjoyed this video, as always, leave a like down below. Really appreciate the support this time of year. We usually get a big spike in viewers with rookie drafts coming around. So if this is the first time you're checking us out, hit the subscription button below, hit the notification bell so you're notified anytime we post videos. We're going to be dropping like 2 videos a day for the next week or so. So definitely stay tuned for all that stuff. If you want access to our rookie rankings, our dynasty rankings, Superflex, one quarterback, best ball, all that stuff is available on flockfantasy.com. And by using the promo code FSE, you can get 30% off any of the packages monthly, 6 months for free when you sign up for the year. And also you get 2 days to try it for free. So if your rookie draft starts today and you want to go sign up on Flock Fantasy using the promo code FSE, you'll have 2 days to see all of our rookie rankings, get a feel for the site, what us and the other creators are putting out there. And then once you see the value and you want to make a purchase at that point, that is your prerogative. So definitely check that out. Make sure to check out Best Ball Mania 4, now live as well. The sickos at Underdog Fantasy are already drafting redraft teams, which is awesome. And we love it. 15 million in total prizes. Again, promo code FSE for 100% back on whatever you put in. Put in $50. That's 2 entries to win 3 million to first, 15 million in total prizes. Using our promo code, you get 2 more for free as a 100% match back. So definitely check out both of those things if you're interested. But with that being said, peace out, and we'll talk to you soon.